What is up, everybody, and welcome back to Lesser Athletes. My name is Chadwell, and today, like always, an interesting video for you here on the channel. Today is me doing something of, I was going to say, exploring a TV channel or a TV series, which technically isn't Raw like a series. Doesn't matter. Anyways, today we're going to explore the what if scenarios from WWE's Unreal show. So if you haven't watched WWE Unreal and you're a WWE fan, I would say watch it. It kind of bends back the current, unless you really like kayfabe. I would say watch it. It bends back the current. This is not, also I have to say, this is not a promotion. This is me just really liking the show. And it gives you some ideas of what they're thinking about, their thought process. So there's going to be two videos about WWE Unreal that will come out. Today's video is what if scenarios from WWE's Unreal show, where, for example, they threw out ideas of who should win the Royal Rumble, and then what ultimately became the idea of Jey Uso winning the Royal Rumble. There's another video that will come out of the original WrestleMania card that we had, and the original Saturday Night's main event that we had, all those. So we'll talk about it, we'll go through it. But let's get started with exploring what if scenarios for WWE's Unreal show, starting with Punk wins the Royal Rumble. So during the show, everyone wanted Punk to win. When they asked everyone, or Triple H, I think, asked the writers' room saying, who do you think should win the Royal Rumble? They all went Punk. Everyone said Punk. Until it was Ed mentioning, I wonder how we can get Jey Uso in one of those main event spots. And they said, Michael Hayes threw out the idea for Jey. He said, well, I just keep thinking about Jey Uso. And so, but the original plan was Gunther versus Punk. We're also going to talk about these hypothetical scenarios from this, when they got mentioned through the video in chronological order through the series, and then not. So let's start off with CM Punk. CM Punk winning the Royal Rumble is the hypothetical. Punk versus Gunther would still happen. I was thinking about Punk versus Rose. Didn't go that route. I decided to go Punk versus Gunther, which made a lot of sense. I still think Punk would still get the main event. He would still get night one. If he would go after Gunther, you would have Seth versus Roman happen. With Seth versus Roman, it would be not a main event, in my opinion. I think you would go Punk and Gunther being the main event because it makes just a little bit more sense getting gold. And clearly they think Punk and Gunther's a WrestleMania main event because look at it at SummerSlam. So I still think Punk still main events, but I think Punk wins and gets gold. I think he would win gold that night one. I don't know if they would let Gunther lose. I think Punk would still go for gold. And I think Punk likely would be champ till SummerSlam. Maybe it's Seth Rollins winning King of the Ring. I'm just going to throw out ideas that I didn't fully throw out here. Maybe it's Roman Reigns winning King of the Ring. Maybe it's something like that where they run back a Punk versus Rollins, or Rollins gets Money in the Bank. I think that's where we would go, is Rollins versus Punk happening again. Maybe a little feuds happening in between. And then we would get the payoff in the end at SummerSlam with maybe Seth winning the title from him to really screw him over. Maybe that's when he forms the faction with Paul Heyman. I think that's another scenario that we could be looking at. But I really do ultimately believe that somehow, some way, it would still be Rollins and Punk in the end. Next scenario they threw out was they keep thinking John Cena would win the Royal Rumble. They threw out right before they talked about Jey Uso that Cena could win the Royal Rumble. Cena could be on his final tour, win the Royal Rumble. It would be huge for him. And they said everyone wanted Punk to win, but Cena was thrown out since it would be his likely last Rumble. So I understand why they wanted Cena. I'm very happy they didn't because, in my opinion, I thought it was very stupid for him to not win a match for somewhat thousands days, and Royal Rumble would be his first win. I thought it would make sense to win in some feuds or something. Elimination Chamber is still a little wonky to me, but still good. But my hypothetical is Cena wins the Rumble. What would this look like? So in my opinion, I would have done Gunther versus Cena because Cena would have been a babyface during this. This means Cena wouldn't have gone on and he wouldn't have been a heel. I don't think that's the case. I think it would have been Gunther versus Cena. I think that's where they do it, where Cena probably loses. I think loses the first with Gunther and then wins King of the Ring and then goes after Gunther at SummerSlam, and then that's when he wins. But WWE said that they wanted to do Cena versus Cody throughout, and they were fine. Michael Hayes said in the show that they were fine with babyface on babyface with Cena and Cody. So I think what would happen would be Cena losing at Mania. I think they would save the 17. I think that would be his journey that he has to overcome as a babyface, is getting 17. So to lose after the Rumble win, I think, in my opinion, the best way that you could build him up as a babyface would have been Cena going after the IC title, becoming a Grand Slam champ before doing that. Maybe he does that afterwards, but I would like Cena having a Grand Slam champ, and I think Cena. This is how I would see it. Not even looking at what I said on the bottom, I think it would be Cena goes after IC. He wins the IC either at SummerSlam or before, loses it maybe at SummerSlam, and then from there it's him building it up and then getting a final chance at the championship at the last match. I think that's a really good storybook ending with his retirement tour. But I think there would have been something with him building himself up. I low-key think that he would win King of the Ring and go after Cody Rhodes again. But that's just a thought process. I think they would want to have put that in there, and I think that's a good thought. Bianca Belair was the original one that they talked about winning the Royal Rumble, and then last second they decided, what about Charlotte coming back? There could be an underdog thing with that. So, name thrown out before Charlotte, wanted her to be the first 2 times winner, but they decided to go with Charlotte, which I had in my predictions, which I think you can still see. Yeah, you can still see behind me. I had Royal Rumble, we don't even look at. Bianca, I thought, was going to win the Royal Rumble. Truthfully, from the women's side, it made too much sense, and then I thought Charlotte would win the EC. Didn't happen, though. Didn't happen. And I have some ideas on what this would look like. So Bianca Belair wins the Rumble. I think what they would have done if that was the case was Rhea and Bianca. They wouldn't have done, in my opinion, Io Sky in there. And I keep looking back at that Mania card they had before. Io Sky, I don't think they were expecting to touch the championship circle. I'm very happy that she did it and happy she won it. But to me, it really was Bianca winning. I think Bianca would have beat Rhea Ripley for that title. She wouldn't have had a big reign. And then with Bianca winning, you could set up a Jade versus Bianca with SummerSlam, with, Queen of the Ring. I think Jade would have won. Or you do Bianca versus Naomi for SummerSlam. I just think that they would have maybe done Bianca versus Jade. I would say Bianca versus Jade. But I don't know how it would go with Naomi and Jade turning the corner because of how it happened in EC. Will they still do Jade versus Naomi? I would assume so. But they didn't even have, I just realized, Jade on the card, or Naomi on the card. So maybe they weren't thinking that at that point. Something to think about, but I ultimately do believe that it would still be Jade and Bianca at the end game for maybe SummerSlam. Another scenario that was thrown out that was insane was idea randomly thrown out by Ed. Everyone eliminates themselves. 29 comes in, eliminates themselves, and everybody else. And 30 basically wins the Rumble, and number 30 would have been Chelsea Green. So this is a scenario that I kind of wish happened. It didn't happen, but I kind of wish. I'm really a Chelsea Green fan. I've talked about that before on the channel. Chelsea Green wins the Rumble, and this is how I think would go. I think she would go after Tiffany Stratton. Now, I debated on that or Rhea Ripley. I think Tiffany Stratton makes sense. SmackDown star going after Tiffany Stratton, the young up-and-comer. Rhea Ripley would have been interesting as well. I think she likely loses Mania match, truthfully, before this happens. I don't think she would have the U.S. title. I think she would lose it beforehand as well, before Rumble, because when they were thinking about this, it was before the Rumble. She would lose it before Rumble. She would go into Royal Rumble and then win it. And I think she would go after Tiffany Stratton and honestly lose her match, because I just think that they could have made her win, but they're not going to do it. I think they would want to put over Tiffany Stratton, but they weren't going to do that. But I really do believe Chelsea Green's a good contender to win Money in the Bank maybe next year. To me, she's just there to be a real main event type of player. And I think, I just really think Chelsea Green winning the Rumble, it would have been insane. Her going after Tiffany Stratton. Stratton versus her would not feel like a Mania match, and I think people would really get mad at Chelsea Green for winning. But still something that I like to talk about. The Rock original Elimination Chamber plan. This made me make this video, truthfully. The original plan that the Rock's team threw together and the Rock's team had was Cody would decline the offer. to The Rock, and The Rock would make an impromptu match right then and there. Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens at Elimination Chamber for the championship, and Kevin Owens wins the title. And he is The Rock's corporate champion. The fact that this was thrown out is insane. Now, there was a couple reasons why this probably didn't happen. They said in there that the title was changed right before WrestleMania they didn't like. I think it was probably Kevin Owens' injury as well. This is insane to think about, truthfully. So the hypothetical that I have of Kevin Owens would always be Cody Rhodes winning back the title. I think a lot of people I've seen say Sami Zayn winning the title from Kevin Owens, but I think it would always be Cody Rhodes winning back the title, and they would continue some big feud. I think it would be Kevin Owens versus Cody Rhodes WrestleMania 41. I don't think Randy Orton would be intervened or in that match. I think it would just be a blood feud between the two, and I think Cody loses because of The Rock interfering and The Rock screwing him over again, and you still have something. And then Cody takes a lot of time off, beats him to miss time. I think it would make a lot of sense. I think it would be a little bit better so Kevin Owens can defend against people and defend against all these other different, superstars. And then story continues right before maybe King of the Ring, maybe before something else. And then Kevin Owens ultimately goes against Cody Rhodes back at SummerSlam and loses, and Cody gets the title again. That's where I think they would go with that story. They could do a Sami Zayn story, but I think it would ultimately still be a Rock, Cody, and KO story. Up next, The Rock gets Cody to turn on Cena. So an idea that was thrown out was ultimately Cody being the one to turn. Not Cena, it was Cody turning the one. The what if through was Cody turning on Cena after taking him out after EC. So ultimately Cena would win the Elimination Chamber. They would still do the same thing. And then ultimately Cody would take out John Cena and still have it. Bruce Pritchard said, what if we do John Cena? And then ultimately chose Cena instead. With Cody, I think it would be Cody versus Cena still happens. Cody wins at Mania. Cena would then climb the mountain and win King of the Ring, and then I think could give Cena the title or keep Cody to last match and overcoming The Rock. So this is where I kind of think back and forth on how they would do this one. I think it would be Cena climbing the mountain where he has to go through all these struggles, and then maybe King of the Ring winner at SummerSlam. Or what you could do is Cena's climbing the mountain, loses at SummerSlam, or doesn't go after it at first. But I think he would always want to go after Cody if this happened. And then 17 at SummerSlam makes sense. Or Cody's still the champion at the end of the day for John Cena's retirement tour. He's there. He's the heel. John Cena finally has to beat him and overcome The Rock and everything. And it's like a storybook ending. But that one, I don't know entirely about. This one's not as fun. CM Punk, original winner of a main event night 1. So when they asked who should they put over, the original person was CM Punk. They really wanted CM Punk to go over. That's who they wanted to win originally, with Heyman turning on him, though. Which the thing that they were saying was not making sense. Heyman would turn on CM Punk, but CM Punk would overcome the odds. I don't really know how that would work. They chose Seth kind of last second. If you look at how the calendar was going, it was like a week before. Hypothetical for CM Punk winning night 1. Heyman turns on Punk. We're still going to do what they want. Goes with Roman Reigns. Kind of solidifies Roman as the big heel. Punk overcomes the turn and still wins. I don't know what would happen in Seth in that scenario. It would likely lead to Roman heavy heel still, and Seth also turning heel because I think he would get so mad that CM Punk won. I don't know if they would make the Seth group still. Maybe what would happen would be the group would be, Punk being the face, and it's a babyface reign of Raw, and then Seth and Roman. I think it would be Seth and Roman kind of somewhat teaming up a little bit. I know that's crazy to say, but I just think somehow, some way, it would be those two kind of teaming up to take down CM Punk because he tried to take everything from, I don't know. I just think that there's something there that they would have to team up. I don't know if Seth would make his faction still. I don't know what would go on, but just want to throw that out there into the abyss. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.